The warning was ridiculed in the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, where hundreds of alien species gathered beneath the light of 1,000 stars. The air shimmered with pride, laughter, and loud voices echoing through ancient stone walls. As most council members believed they had mastered every known threat in the galaxy, no world, they thought, could ever surprise them again. At the center, the Supreme Speaker, a tall, slender being with skin like flowing silver, lifted one hand. Gradually, the room quieted. With a composed and even voice, he said, "There is one final item. An alert from the elder of the Varnook race concerning a primitive world called Earth." Instantly, a ripple of chuckles spread across the chamber. Some even burst into laughter. Earth, a chaotic backwater world of impulsive humans who had once applied for council membership, was remembered only for its violent history and unstable emotions. Then a low, gravelly voice cut through the mirth. Elder Threx of Varnook rose. One of the few who had witnessed the last Earth War, an abrupt conflict with the Outer Rim that ended mysteriously when Earth vanished from all long-range detection. He stood tall, his body draped in ceremonial vines that swayed like sentient cloth. His glowing eyes swept the chamber. "I have seen what many of you have not," he said. "I have read records others pretend don't exist. I know what humans truly are. They are not weak, they are not simple, and they are not to be mocked." The chamber stilled. Even the youngest delegates paused, their smiles fading. But then, a delegate from the Creek species, cold and half-mechanical, rose, his voice layered with synthetic scorn. "Elder Threx, with respect, Earth has been dormant for centuries. Their tech is obsolete, their society fractured. They can barely leave their own orbit. Why should we fear them?" Laughter surged again. Even the Supreme Speaker allowed a faint smile. Threx remained still. His next words were quiet, yet every syllable chilled the air. "They do not sleep. They wait. They watch while we forget. And when they rise, there will be no peace offerings, no warnings, no forgiveness for mockery." Some in the chamber shifted uneasily. A few whispered among themselves. But most returned to smug certainty, convinced Earth was just a forgotten scrap of space filled with wild creatures squabbling in the dark. Yet in the back row sat a silent delegate, a survivor from the Kurani, a race thought extinct. He did not laugh. His ancestors had lived near Earth during the time before silence. His grandmother once told of a human ship that appeared from nowhere, obliterated a fleet with a single pulse, then vanished before contact could be made. He remained quiet, but sent a message home. "Begin preparations. Earth may return." Elsewhere, in the galaxy's shadows, where no ship dared go, a massive vessel glided through darkness. Undetectable, unrecorded, unseen. Inside, hundreds of human. Minds connected through a neural network reviewed satellite captures of council space. A female officer with ice-pale eyes murmured. They laughed again. Shall we remind them why they stopped laughing the first time? From the command deck, a voice replied, calm and deep. Not yet. Let them laugh. Let them forget. Then we strike, and they'll remember. Back in the council chamber, the Supreme Speaker waved the topic away. Earth poses no threat. Let us move on to real matters. Elder Threx sat down slowly, eyes clouded with ancient memories. He whispered a single line to himself, unheard by anyone else. When they come, it will already be too late. And while the council squabbled over trade routes and border patrols, treating Threx's warning as a ghost story, a silent storm moved through the void, unseen, undetected, unstoppable. On the edge of council space, near a lifeless zone marked uninhabitable, drifted a black ship. No lights, no signals. Its surface cold and stone-like, but inside it throbbed with energy and intent, razor-sharp and merciless. This was no ordinary craft. It was older than any ship in Council archives, yet faster than their newest cruisers. Its engines purred quieter than deep vacuum, and its hidden weapons waited, still and silent, like wolves in long grass. In the command room, Captain Ilara Gray stood before a vast display, arms behind her back, her face calm yet unyielding. The screen showed dozens of Council worlds, monitored and mapped by Earth's AI, Nightingale, a silent sentinel that heard everything. One officer, Lieutenant Karen, turned from his console. "Ma'am, we intercepted transmissions from the Council." They laughed at the warning again. "They don't see us as a threat." Ilara's lips curled into a faint, icy smile. "Of course they laughed. They always laugh, right before the truth crushes them. And when it does, they'll beg on their knees." Above the Council worlds, Earth's hidden satellites blinked awake. The warning that was once ridiculed in the heart of the Galactic Council, where hundreds of alien species assembled beneath the radiance of 1,000 stars, the hall brimming with pride, amusement, and the echo of confident voices, because most Council members believed they had conquered every known danger in the galaxy, and that no planet could ever surprise them again. The Supreme Speaker, a tall, elegant being with skin like rippling silver, stood at the center and raised one graceful hand for silence. And when the chatter quieted, he spoke in a calm, measured tone. "There remains one final matter, a concern brought forth by the elder of the Varnook species regarding a primitive world called Earth." Instantly chuckles rippled through the chamber, and many broke into laughter, for the name Earth conjured images of an unruly species of impulsive humans who once applied for Council entry but were denied for their aggression and emotional volatility. Then an aged voice from the side, deep and rough with time, silenced the room. It was Elder Threx of Varnook, one of the oldest delegates who had lived through the last war between Earth and the galactic outer rim, a war that ended mysteriously when Earth vanished from all long-range detection, as though it had hidden itself behind some invisible curtain. Threx rose slowly, ceremonial vines trailing over his form like sentient robes, and his eyes, glowing with age, swept over the room as he spoke. "I have seen what many of you ignore. I've read records long sealed, and I know what the humans truly are. They are not weak, they are not fools, and they should never be dismissed." His voice was steady, but the silence that followed it was not because no one expected him to speak with such solemn gravity. Even the youngest among them stopped grinning, but then a representative of the coldly rational Creek species stood up, his body part, metal part, flesh, and gave a mechanical laugh. "Elder Threx, with respect, Earth has remained inactive for hundreds of cycles. Their technology is ancient, their societies fragmented, they can barely travel beyond their own system. How can they possibly pose a threat?" The laughter returned louder this time, and even the Supreme Speaker allowed a small, amused smile, but Threx stood firm and responded, his tone quieter and more chilling. "They are not asleep, they are watching. They remember while we forget, and when they return, they will not ask for peace. They will not send diplomats, and they will not forgive being mocked." The mood in the chamber shifted slightly. Some exchanged uneasy glances, but most quickly retreated into arrogance, dismissing Earth as a relic of a bygone era, full of feral creatures fighting each other. However, seated quietly in the far back was a small delegate from the lost wanderers known as the Kurani, and he did not laugh, for his people had once dwelled near Earth before the silence, and his grandmother once told him of a human vessel appearing from nowhere, wiping out an entire fleet with one shot, then vanishing before anyone could respond. He said nothing aloud, but deep inside he believed Threx and quietly sent a message to his world: "Prepare, the old threat stirs again." Meanwhile, deep in the dark reaches of uncharted space beyond all maps, a massive construct drifted silent and unseen by any known sensors, and within it, hundreds, of human minds linked by neural webs analyzed council space. Data one officer, a woman with icy blue eyes, leaned over her screen and murmured, "They're laughing again. Shall we remind them why they stopped laughing last time?" A deep voice answered. "From the command bridge, not yet let them laugh. Let them forget. Then we strike, and they will remember once more." In the council hall, the Supreme Speaker waved away the topic. "Earth is no danger. Let's move on to real business." Threx sat down slowly, his eyes lost in old memories, and whispered words no one else heard. "By the time they see us, it will be too late." While the council resumed debates over tariffs and border disputes, dismissing the elders' words as senile, stories meant for scaring children. A quiet storm had already begun, far beyond their vision, hidden from their scanners and their pride at the edge of mapped space near a zone marked as lifeless. A black vessel floated with no lights, no signalets. Hull dark and cold as stone, but inside it pulsed with life, with minds with purpose. This was no ordinary ship. It was ancient, older than any known record, and yet its systems ran more efficiently than the newest council crafts, its engines near silent, and its weaponry buried like fangs in the shadows, waiting not to defend, but to strike. Inside the control chamber stood Captain Elara Gray, calm, composed, hands behind her back, eyes on the display showing council worlds tracked by Earth's secret. AI system known as Nightingale, which listened to every whisper across the stars. Her officer, Lieutenant Karan, turned from his console and reported, "Intercepted council chatter, ma'am. They laughed again. They still don't think we're a threat." Elara's lips curled into a sharp, cold smile. "Of course they laughed, they always do before we tear down their illusions, and by the time they understand, it'll be too late." Above the council planets, Earth's ghost fleet listened, unseen, recording. Voices tracking fleet paths, measuring resources, and most of all, studying plans back on Earth beneath the surface of an old lunar base. The real power of humanity wasn't in firepower, but in readiness, in knowledge, in their unmatched mastery of psychological warfare. Glowing data tables surrounded analysts connected to a live galactic feed, and in the center sat Director Vale, head of the Tyrant Wing, Earth's most secret organization, which officially didn't exist, and answered to no law, designed for a single mission: to watch and to strike when the time was right. "Are they still mocking us?" he asked without looking up. "Yes, sir," said a young analyst. But Elder Threx's speech triggered a 12% rise in concern levels among some council members. Vale gave a slight nod, then leaned in and whispered, "Doubt is the first crack in their wall, and every wall once cracked falls." Across the stars, rumors bloomed in the colonies, quiet stories of ghost ships in deep space, reports of fleets vanishing, without trace, and eerie voices speaking flawless alien tongues, asking only one question before fading. "Do you remember Earth?" Most leaders scoffed, called them myths, hoaxes, hallucinations. But the ordinary people, those who remembered the old tales, began to whisper in hidden corners to friends in back rooms, and through encrypted messages. One aging trader in the Zarn system, who once worked with humans, sent a simple warning to his government. "If you're still laughing at them, you haven't been paying attention. They aren't silent because they're weak. They're silent because they're ready." The council ignored it, as always, but whispers were already turning into plans on the black ship. Captain Elara moved past ranks of elite, soldiers enhanced, armored, silent, and loyal, until she reached the central hall where the old Earth flag still hung, faded but unbroken. She stared at it, then turned to her crew and said, "They think we're unchanged. They think we're jokes. They have no idea what we've become or how deep we are inside their systems." Her voice rose for all to hear. "We do not move for revenge, but for justice, not for conquest, but for the respect they denied us. And if they will not give it freely, we will take it." And as her words echoed, Earth's invisible fleet began its silent advance, one vessel at a time, one shadow at a time, always unseen, always prepared and far away in his quiet chamber. Elder Threx sat among ancient tomes and brittle maps, and when his private communicator blinked with a forgotten Earth signal, he didn't flinch. He simply nodded once and said, "So it begins." Near the outer rim above the cold planet Veteranine, a high-security research station orbited silently. A project, funded by the Galactic Council, shielded and guarded the scientists. There were the best minds of many species, from Zarnian chemists to Kelnar engineers, and they believed they were safe too far out to be noticed, too protected to be touched, especially by the species they still called primitive, the humans. Then on the 11th rotation, the station sent its routine report, all clear energy, stable personnel, healthy research advancing. But an hour later, the Council received nothing. No reply, no ping, no data. Silence. They assumed a tech failure and sent a drone to investigate what it found. Shocked, the galaxy, the station, was gone, not destroyed, not damaged, simply erased. No debris, no energy trace, no life signals. It was as if it had never existed. The report reached the Council in waves, not of panic, but of confusion, disbelief. High Commander Velrix slammed a metal hand on the Council desk. "Impossible! That station had full shields. No power could do this without being noticed." But Counselor Yarna responded, voice low and firm. "Yet something did, and without warning." Another member suggested sabotage from within, but no one truly believed it. The debate dragged on, but beyond their chamber, fear was already spreading across networks. Leaked drone footage showed only empty space where once stood a beacon of science. And in the days that followed, fear surged across the Council's planets, not because of what they knew, but because of what they couldn't explain: how a station could disappear without leaving a whisper, how a defense grid could fail without a sound, though leaders made speeches and denied human involvement. The public remembered the stories told in hushed tones about humans fighting not with numbers or brute force, but with cunning, with patience, and with a madness no other race could match. And now, after all these years, the signs had returned on Salon Prime, the trade hub of 1,000 worlds. Words began to appear on walls overnight, always the same message painted in red, written in every major tongue. You were warned. The security force erase the messages, tighten controls, and silence the spreading fear. But it was already too late. The phrase had rooted itself in the collective consciousness like a curse. You were warned. Traders whispered it over drinks, smugglers etched it into hulls, and even children began murmuring it in games, unaware of its gravity. On Salon Prime, a Council investigator named Rivek was assigned to track the source. A Zarnian with a sharp analytical mind and no patience for superstition, he followed the trail through security feeds, graffiti timestamps, and unofficial trade routes. But every lead ended in dead space, literally. Ships listed in the records were missing, cameras glitched without cause. When Rivek finally traced one message to a supposedly empty docking bay, he found it sealed shut with no record of recent use. Yet inside, a wall had been painted freshly red. His scanner translated the message: they never forgot, they never forgave, and now they remember. That night, Rivek filed his final report. The next morning he was gone. No trace, no farewell, no digital footprint. In the Galactic Council chamber, panic simmered beneath the surface, masked by protocol and procedure. The Supreme Speaker's voice remained calm, but there was a tremor in his gestures now, a hesitation in his rhetoric. Rumors of Earth's ghost fleet had gone from myths to classified threat assessments. Still, most leaders clung to denial. Pride had kept the Council powerful for millennia. Surely it would protect them again. But pride was a fragile shield. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship Phantom Resolve, Captain Ilara Gray studied the latest psychological impact report. Civilian anxiety was up 32% across Council space. Confidence in the council's authority was crumbling. She turned to her strategist, Karen. "Stage 2?" she asked. "Ready," he replied. "We've seeded enough doubt. Now we fracture trust." "Then let it fracture," Ilara said, her voice soft, resolute. No more warnings. At her command, a dozen hidden satellites activated across council space, Earth's forgotten sentinels from the Lost War. Each broadcast a brief, encrypted message only council military frequencies could receive. The message was short, chilling, and unmistakably human. "We asked for peace. You laughed. This time, we don't ask." Fleet commanders scrambled to interpret it. Some dismissed it as a hoax. Others tried jamming the signal, only to discover it was coming from within their own systems. On Earth's old lunar base, Director Vale received confirmation. He stood before his assembled analysts, the room dimmed except for the flickering data feeds lighting their focused faces. "They will call us monsters," he said, voice calm. "Let them. History never remembers the ones who were right first, only the ones who were right last." Above him, a new symbol appeared on the central screen, the old Earth flag now marked with a single word beneath it: Return. Across the Aya stars, the forgotten world was no longer silent. It was listening. It was watching. And soon, it would speak.